figure it all out. So, this meeting is specifically to look at our, and have a conversation regarding the appointment process to our commissions. And so I'm going to turn it over to David first, and then I know the clerk will carry on, so we'll just go.
Great, thank you. And this is a study session, so it's a discussion for the council to have with staff about our boards and commissions in terms of the makeup, the appointment process. And our goal tonight is to hear your thoughts, provide some context of what currently exists, some ideas and thoughts that we have that we've seen that could be improved, but then also hear from you. And then we'll take that information back, work on an update, and bring that back to you for formal action. So we won't be asking for a formal action from you tonight, but we will be asking for ideas and thoughts and things that you'd like us to look into. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city clerk to do the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So as you said, the purpose of tonight's study session is to review and receive the council's feedback on the current process that are used for making commission and committee appointments. As we go through this, I may use the term commissions rather than commissions and committees throughout, but I am referring to both as we go through this. So why we have commissions? They serve a really important role in local government. They provide recommendations for changes in public policy. They can study a specific topic and provide their findings to the council, or they can perform a specific duty. They can be They can be quasi-judicial, and they can set policy, like the Planning Commission, but most are advisory to the council. Using these commissions and committees provides a vast wealth of diverse opinions and knowledge for the council's use in their decision-making. So in the city of Sonoma, our appointments are made in compliance with both the municipal code and the council's commission and committee appointment policy. As we see on the slide, the municipal code, they each contain different kinds of information. The Muni Code establishes the commissions and talks about their composition and their purpose. And the policy provides the structure for how they are filled. So on the slide, we see that there's two types of commissions. But in Sonoma, there's actually three different types of commission appointments that are made. There's the mayor's appointments, the Group A appointments, and the Group B appointments. The mayor's appointments are the annual appointments that of the council members that to other agency bodies, for example, Sonoma Clean Power or the Water Advisory Group. The Group A and B appointments are those made by the city council where they appoint a community member to serve. The terminology can be confusing, so I just wanted to clarify that for tonight's purposes. We're only referring to those commission appointments that are referenced in the appointment policy. The Group A are the regional and valley commission and committees, and they're formed by other governmental agencies. And the Group B commissions are those that are formed by the city council. So these are the Group A, the regional valley and commission committees. The number of appointments, usually the city has one appointment for those bodies with a few exceptions. The term is set by the governing agency, not by the city. The jurisdiction extends beyond the city of Sonoma, and the appointment process is made using the mayoral appointment process. So the mayor and a council member conduct interviews, the mayor makes a nomination at a public meeting, and then the council considers the nomination for ratification. These are your current Group A commissions and committees. You can see they include you can read them, the SVCAC, the Oversight Board, the Housing Corporation, the Library Commission, Mosquito and Vector Control District, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory, and the Sustainable Groundwater. So your Group B commissions, these are the ones that the city makes the appointments to. Composition, they include individual council member appointees, 2 at-large members, 1 non-voting youth member. The length varies depending on the position. The jurisdiction is limited to the city of Sonoma. And the appointment process, and this is per the current policy, is made using a random rotational order. Each council member makes one direct appointment. No ratification is necessary. And the at-large members, non-voting youth member, and alternate are appointed by a majority of the council and then ratified. These are the Group B commissions. And you'll notice the difference in the composition. The Planning Commission and the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission have 2 at-large members that the others do not. And when we discuss later on the items that have been considered, or that we've brought forward for consideration that we've heard some discussion on, you'll notice that several of them revolve around these commissions. So the types of members in the group, you have individual council member at large, alternate, and non-voting youth members. Except for the youth members, the terms begin February 1 after an election year. When this was done, the theory was that it would allow newly elected council members a few weeks to get acclimated before being required to make appointments. And then it also aligned the terms across the commissions, which made it easier for administration because at that time, every term of every member was different. There were no this person started this date. It was very random. It was very difficult to try and track those. So that was part of why those were changed. Sorry. There it is. The alternate members, on all of the Group B commissions, one member can be a resident of Sonoma Valley, which has been identified as the Sonoma Valley School District boundaries. However, the alternate must be a resident of the city. And it should be noted that the youth term differs from the others. That begins on August 1st, and the idea was that that would be, coincide with the beginning of the school year. So why are we here tonight? Because the policy has been in place since it was 2017 originally, and then revamped completely in February of 18. The last time it was updated was October of 2022. It's not been reviewed by this current council as a whole in its entirety. In the current document, there's been multiple past amendments that were made specifically to address events that were happening at that time, rather than so that it was being done very piece by piece. The current process is very detailed, and there's a desire to simplify it. And there's been several areas that have been identified that bear consideration. So the different areas that we have identified for consideration based on use of the policy and what we've heard from council members and staff. Starting just briefly, I'll go through these. The Municipal Code 2.400010 is in attendance. This code no longer applies because now with making the direct appointments, they serve at the will of the individual council member. And so it would be, with this language no longer applies, so staff would recommend that it be modified to only apply to those at-large members that the council as a whole appoints. Sonoma, the following codes are on composition. The reason we brought this forward is because the composition of the commission is not consistent. As we talked about, the planning and the CFAC have 7 members. They both have those 2 at-large members. The others all have 5 members. So it would be, staff would recommend that the council consider changing the number of the members so that all of the commissions are consistent. In the policy, looking at the definitions, this one's more of an administrative purpose. When it was first written, the policy, even though it's a city policy, the regional and valley items were put in as Group A. They were put in almost like looking like the primary commissions. And in order to, staff's recommendation is that we update the lettering convention to put the city's commissions as the primary member, since it is a city document. The mayoral appointment process, this is a different appointment process for the Group A appointments. And when this when this is done, there does have to be formal interviews between the mayor and a council member. According to the policy, there's questions that are to be drafted, and then the nomination of the mayor after those, after they talk with each other, then the recommendation from the mayor, she makes a nomination at an open council meeting, or they make and then the council has to ratify that. And so there was some thought that it would be, in order to simplify it, that it could be done, the mayoral appointments could be handled in the same manner that the at-large, the alternate, and the non-voting youth member are, which is brought to the council as a whole and acted on as a council majority. Next is the individual council mayor appointments. The reason we brought this forward was because there was some question about the term starting February 1 for appointments, and it's currently considered as an agendized item. And the staff's recommending that amending this to allow that direct appointments of the council members can be made at any time, because those appointments do serve at the will of the council, the council member that appointed them. And it would be, rather than having it as an agenda item, it would just be memorialized that those appointments would be made or could be made during the council member reports section on the agenda. They would not require being agendized as a separate item, and it wouldn't require ratification by the council as a whole. And if a council member is reelected, currently the policy says that even if you want to keep the same person, that because it's a new term for the council member and they run coterminous, that they would have to basically reapply for reappointment. And that would, if we did this, then it would also change that, and it would remove that. They would just continue to serve. The next one is the random draw. The current policy states that the order will be determined by random draw. And it's quite, when this was written, it was written very detailed as to exactly how that had to be done. So it is, there has been some concern addressed or expressed that, it may be random, but the same people get it every time. Or it also, there was, when we had 3 new council members that were replacing council members that weren't elected, it kind of messed with the process the way it told us to, because it said you had to draw, and so say if Councilmember Smith replaced Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Smith automatically went into Councilmember Jones's rotation order. And so it became very convoluted trying to figure out which council member went where. So we decided that we would just start at beginning and do another one. So staff's recommending that, especially with the above recommendation of individual council member appointments, if we make those changes, that to do away with the this section, because it's no longer necessarily to define an order. And if it were at the point that it needed to be, then the council could at that time delegate to a councilman. For some reason, it wasn't clear as to how that would work. Alternate members. Right now, we have, as I said, an alternate member on each of the commissions and committees. And it's an interesting role because they are, for one, they're required to be a resident. And they are required to attend all meetings, prepare for every meeting, like they're going to be sitting at the dais as a member of the commission acting that evening. Most of the time, and it varies, but over the last few years, most of the time the members, the alternate member ends up sitting in the audience, just as a member of the audience, not participating. We did some research on what other cities are doing, and very few. I pulled the local county cities. I also sent a listserv to the state, full state. Good response. Majority of them do not have alternates. Few do, and the ones that did, they were more for like their regulatory boards. Like their one that comes to mind is their Board of Administrative Appeals, which has they said it has like a quasi-judicial authority. So staff would recommend possibly considering removing the alternate position, or seeing if the intent of why we have it is still valid. The non-voting youth member, we're looking at terms, and also the timing of appointment. The timing of the appointment in August is not effective, we found. Most students are either away for the summertime with their family, they're involved in, this is what our experience has been. They've been involved in summer activities, and usually those appointments ended up getting made between September, October. After they're back in school, their schedules are set. And those are also for a one-year term. And so staff's recommending that the council consider changing those terms to a start date of an October appointment, which would give them some time to have their class schedules, know kind of what their schedule is going to look like as far as the load that they're going to be carrying. Also, the term, the council may wish to consider changing their term from 1 year to 2 year, as long as they're still eligible. And this would align with the at-large and the alternate members. But it also would allow the members, the non-youth members, to really get a true participation in the process, especially for our commissions and committees that only meet quarterly. I know right now we have a great group of youths that are being very effective on their commissions. So that's something that if the council would consider. So basically for the next steps, it's just that we're asking the council to review the policy and what we've brought, and if you have anything else, and then provide feedback and direction to staff. And as City Manager Ewan said, there's no action tonight other than just feedback and direction. And then based on that feedback, some of these things may take a transition plan. And the thought was that that plan could be created to implement the changes throughout the year, with it being fully changed by January 2025, which would coincide with the next city election. And with that, I would answer any questions, or if council would like to take it.
Yeah. So before I entertain comments and questions from the council, I just want to preface this by saying I asked to put this on here. I've been unhappy with the process from when I started. The pulling numbers out of a hat is just ridiculous. That's something you do at a child's birthday party, not at a city council. And it's to have committees and commissions that are inconsistent with numbers of people that serve and all of that makes it very difficult. I mean, because honestly, we're it's hard to remember. Well, does this one have 7? Does this one have 5? So making it consistent is really important. And I also want to say that because of the situation that arose where one of the members of a commission resigned, basically because there was some information that came to light that he called into question, what went on. I just want to address that and say on the record that this council is incredible in terms of the due diligence that they put in to everything that they do. And that I believe that the process is what failed us, not the background of any of the work that any of us had done. I mean, what happened was a list of people was presented to us, and we had to go in order and choose, and we're told to choose somebody, and brand new council members, they did what they were expected to do, not knowing necessarily how all this came about. And I remember sitting here doing it, and I chose somebody who I had asked to apply, and John said, "Oh, I was going to choose that person," and it was just like, this is ridiculous. I should have just been able to take the person that I wanted, apply to, and say, "This is my appointee for the Fine Arts Commission," and that's that, and not have to hope that I drew the right number and be able to appoint the person that I wanted to appoint. I mean, I just can't even begin to get my head wrapped around the absurdity of that. So I asked to put this on here. I think that there's some good staff suggestions on here. I'm interested to see if there's any others, but what I'd like to see is some consistency in the number of people. I don't think, the one thing I don't see addressed in there is if you appoint someone directly that is outside the city limits, that then becomes the two at-large people. One of them will have to be an inside, so for every committee and commission, you have one direct appointment, mandatory 5 that live in the city, 2 that potentially can or live outside. So there's a little bit of cleanup, I think, that has to go there. But generally, I'm in favor of revamping this. I mean, it's very much like what the Planning Commission appointment process is, which is the way it should be. And I'm in favor of getting rid of the alternates, because if we have 7 people, we should be able to have a quorum. And I think that is the purpose of having an alternate, is to make sure that you meet your quorum. And with 5 people, it's difficult, from time to time to make a quorum. So anyway, I wanted to preface that because just on the record, I really, it was very frustrating for me to hear some of the comments and so forth that were just, I think, were unfair. And I'm every day impressed by the amount of work that goes into doing their job. Every single person on this dais does a great job. Every person does their homework. And if something messes up, we have to sometimes it's the process, it's not the person. And so here's a chance to clean it up. And I'm all in favor of doing that. So I'm sorry, I just needed to say that on the record because it was something that concerned me. Anyway, at this point, I will turn it back in my usual fashion to other people and let them chime in and see if anyone has any questions or any comments or suggestions on this process. Okay, John, please.
So I agree that consistency is a good thing. And one of the things that we've talked about during the campaign and even in day-to-day contacts, and I'm sure most of the council members probably experience the same thing, there are people that are interested in having a greater role in what goes on within the city. And, short of annexation and all the other things that we could do, I think the commissions present an opportunity for us to legitimately allow seats to be, I think you refer to them as at large, but county representatives. And so with that consistency, I would certainly be interested in seeing on each commission county seats or at-large seats, and put our money where our mouth is in terms of recognizing that we are a bigger community, and to have that kind of input could be valuable for us. So,
Thank you. Any other comments or suggestions? Ms.
So I just
Barr-Rivas.
want to clarify. So the at-large, I thought that was Sonoma Valley, but it's the county?
No, it's the school district boundary.
It's the school district. Thank you. But then I had another question. For Group A, when I looked at these, I was familiar with not all of them. I remember the list. But can non-council members be to what is currently Group A? Not what will be Group A potentially in the future. But can non-council members be assigned to those? Or are only council member positions? Is that correct?
If I may,
Yeah.
Councilmember first. Group A, and this is part of that confusion that I talked about at the beginning, these are actually Group A commissions, regional, valley, and regional, that are council appointments of community members. These are community members. The Group A, the mayoral appointments that happen
All right,
annually.
so I get it. I guess because when I saw the library commission, I didn't realize, I thought it was just John and I was the alternate. I didn't know that there was also another. And this last time, we didn't do that. We didn't appoint these. You as the mayor appointed people to these.
Most of them have been in place. They're in their terms.
Okay,
If
that's
you
why.
remember, we've been trying to get the Citizens Advisory Commission, we've got openings right now that
Yeah.
we've got to fill. So they're out there, but most of these, the Sonoma Community Housing Corporation Board has been, I don't want to use the word, it's not been active, and so there's been no membership at all for that for some time. I think 2014, 18 was the last time that anyone, and then so yeah, it's just because they haven't come up since you have all been on there.
Right, understood. That's why when I looked at it, I was like, I'm not familiar with us doing this. So, and then I would like to also review the age range for youth members and extend it beyond 18 so that you're looking, so that junior college students could potentially be a youth member. Extended, I think 24 is a good age to extend it to. Our brains aren't really set until we're 25 anyway. You're still
Don't
youth.
tell a 25-year-old. Their brain was set,
Well, at
at
12,
18.
we understand
Yeah,
that.
right, yeah.
Right. But then I appreciate the 7 appointees and having 2 of those be at large. And then you did answer the question of like how we'll manage current alternates, because that will, at the end of 2025, the current alternates, that they can reapply. All right. And the only other thing I wanted to say is I know one of the current alternates on the Planning Commission actually has been sitting at the dais a lot more than they thought, even though they have 7. So I think then it just has to be clear to the commissions that, they need to make sure that they have a quorum. All right, those were all my comments. And also thank you for your words, Marilyn. Appreciate them.
No, thank you. You've been doing a great job, and that was totally unfair. Mr. Ding, did you have anything to add?
Oh, my question is, what kind of the openings right now? You just mentioned the Citizen Advisory Commission still have the opening, right? Do you have any?
I believe at this moment, Councilmember Ding, all of our commissions and committees are full.
Okay, good. That is good to know. And also, I would like to, consistency is important. And also, if not possible, I know the time is changing, everything is changing. If we could have some kind of procedure or possibly in a standardized, and also it's better. Residents can easily follow. And also the important thing, education, maybe after we finish this process, you can contribute some articles to local newspaper, let the local people understand what's going on. It's a little bit complicated, but then from time to time, I got to know more, and then easier for us to get people pointed. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ding. Mr. Willender, did you have anything to add?
Disappoint you if I did, right?
You would. I'd be crushed.
Yes, I am seeing it just slightly different, and part of it is because I've participated in the past on both the design review as well as planning commission. I'm not saying you could get consensus on a larger design review body than 5, but my gut feeling says 5 is good, and I don't think 7 would necessarily improve the process other than representation. So I'm not against representation, but in terms of recalling the 5 years I was on it, it seemed like if you had 2 more opinions on there, I'm not sure where that process would have gone. So that's my one comment about possibly keeping it to 5. I also agree that the alternates, I should say, historically in my mind have been kind of punishment. Because the expectation is you give time, you give energy, you're expected to be on top of things, and then you have to sit there like a church mouse unless there's a missing one. So I definitely agree that we can eliminate the alternates, recognizing that historically we haven't had a problem reaching quorum. I like the direct appointments, and I experienced that historically in the past where things changed. I was originally a skeptic at first, but I've been extremely pleased in the last 3 or 4 years where the makeup of the direct appointments has been rich and has been good, and I fully support that. I'm a little bit confused in the presentation as far as on the attendance at large. I know that right now the code says that you can only miss 2, otherwise you're out the door.
It's actually 3, I believe it says 3 consecutive or 1/3 of the meetings, rather regular or special, in a year, and it's automatically vacated.
And that would be for both the direct appointees as well as at large?
Well, the thought was, when staff was discussing this, was that the direct appointments, they serve at the pleasure of the council member who appointed them. And if they're not meeting their attendance, then City Manager Guin would have a conversation with the council member, and then they could talk with their person. But the at-large members are by the body, or appointed by the body, so that would give you something for those members. That was our thought.
Okay. Yeah, I have take no exception to the idea of expanding the youth age, although we may want to revisit the title. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other last comments? Mr. Daly?
Mayor?
Yes.
And I agree, remove that alternate the position. But I do have some good point for alternate. And I remember, some of the people want to involve the local commission, but don't have the space. So an alternate is just like stand by and look, and then also you can learn and practice yourself, get ready by yourself. So this is a good part.
Yes, and it's a Brown Act. These are all Brown Act committees. Anybody's welcome to come. Anyone's welcome to watch, to learn, and so I think if people are interested in it, I think we should encourage them. And I'm in favor. I get your point, Mr. Ding, but I think that can be done in other ways. We don't need to have. Everybody's sitting there in the audience this evening. Potential city council members. They're watching, they're reading things, they're studying it, and very often that's where the council members come from. They start being watchers of the, and I think if it works for a city council member, it certainly can work for a commission member. Ms. Rivas, you have something to
Yeah, I have
add?
2 quick things. One, I think one of the reasons it's good to have 7 members is that then if they need to create an ad hoc committee, they can make an ad hoc committee of 3 people instead of just 2, because it's, 2 can be a difficult ad hoc committee. It's good to have that, the number 3, have that odd number. And then the other thing I would recommend about the, what are we going to call the youth associate member, maybe we call them associate members and there's an age range for them, is that they actually would be requested to vote, but the vote would not be counted. Because then I think it actually gives that member that is a youth member or an associate the ability to have to make a decision and understand what it's really like to be on a commission. It's something that they do. I heard that from that they were doing that in Guerneville.
Okay. No, I have no problem with any of that. I agree with you on the 7-member. I get your point, Mr. Wellender. However, consistency is important, and then also with the vice mayor's comments regarding making sure we have people from outside the city limits, I think it makes it almost a necessity that we have more than 5, because I don't think we can do, we would need that. So I think that those 2 things combined sort of tip the scales for me on that one. All right. If there are no other comments, just coming back to staff, have you received the sufficient input that you need to move this forward?
I think so. We'll bring it back to you, and then you can look at it again. One thing that's not in the presentation, but that I wanted to share with you, as part of this, as we go through this process, we have been exploring expanded trainings for commissioners and committees, including vice chair and chair trainings. So that will be part of the process as we go forward, expanded training, and also a full council member or commission member handbook. So that's all being tied into this as we make this change.
Yeah, and I hope that that training is, I'm trying to find the words for it, not punitive. These are folks that are volunteering their time, and sometimes they get a little bit put off by, just filling out some of the forms is sort of overwhelming. They didn't know. We had people decide they didn't want to be on it because there was mandatory trainings that they have to go through that people weren't aware of. And so I think it's important that we sort of err on the side of being gently nudge them in the direction of the training. And, because I received several comments that people felt like, they were almost scared to be on it. They felt like, oh my God, I could be sued, or I have to take this training. And so sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. So training is good, but it has to be done in such a way where people feel it's helpful to them, not threatening.
So,
Go ahead.
of course, I have one more. I always do. I think I would like the staff to look at the number of meetings for different commissions, because some of them that are quarterly, the amount of work or issue matters that they're dealing with makes it very hard for them to actually move things forward with quarterly meetings. And maybe they don't have monthly meetings, but maybe they could have, have the capability of, maybe one working session per quarter and one meeting per quarter or something, so that they're, I'll be specific, and it may change over time. And look, oh, she's looking right. She knows what I'm saying. The Climate Action Commission they are dealing with 5 different areas. Each of those 5 areas are very complex. So, looking at being able to have a meeting where they can truly kind of discuss all of those areas once a quarter is very difficult. And I realize that takes more staff resources. That's why I wanted to have staff look at that.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I'd just love to chime in on that. I think we do owe the public a certain level of responsiveness. And so I believe the Traffic Safety Committee meets quarterly, and I'm not sure we're serving the community well by doing that. So I would look at, unfortunately, more frequent meetings, but maybe they wouldn't be as long if they're addressing 1 or 2 issues per meeting.
Those are all great suggestions. And I think that, we can be flexible with agendas. I'm copied on some, requests that people have wanted to put things together, like for this room, for the cultural and finance. They're meeting all the time. They're not even waiting until there's a meeting, because there's work to do. So I agree with you. There's a lot of work to do. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. If you have I don't think we've necessarily, have put a cap on any type of input. So if you have good ideas, please share them. And I look forward to having this come back and to have a more professionalized process where everybody in the community knows what the process is, and the members of this body are empowered to select the people that they think best for these very important commissions and committees. So with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we will be back at 6:00 to have even more fun. Thank you. We are adjourned.